Welcome back to the Art of the Paint. I am Tyler DeLuca, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. You've probably seen him on the WNBA Spaces or writing on WNBA.com. His basketball knowledge is so good that I can only be met by how terrible his food takes are. Mark Schindler. Mark, thanks for joining with me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tyler. I appreciate it, man.
I
I'm
know,
looking forward to it.
I know you got the best intro possible with the food takes, but I can't leave it out. But we're gonna get back to the food takes, but I want to dive right into WNBA opening weekend. I wanted to start with the Liberty because there's very few teams that not every team got to play those two games, but the teams that did get two games, I don't think there was a bigger difference in the two games than what the Liberty had. So for you and what you kind of saw, what changed between those games? Obviously, Stewie going nuclear is always going to help, but what kind of caused that? And I think there was a complete kind of philosophy change from the Liberty. So what did you see in that?
Yeah, I agree. I felt like the first game, I should have a breakdown coming out like tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
over on the website, but I thought the biggest thing for me was like game one. And to be fair, like I thought the first game was a lot more about how good the Mystics were and how
Mm-hmm.
ready they were for the season to start than anything about the Liberty being bad. That's what happens when you integrate that much new talent.
Right.
Um, but it felt like their offense in game one was all over the place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
granted, like there was a lot of turnovers and just sloppiness, but also it kind of felt like they weren't trying to necessarily just get to one thing. It felt like I wrote directly in my article. I was like, it felt like I was eating Superman ice cream and watching them. It's like there's a lot of flavor, but I don't really like it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how it felt. And game two was they just featured the shit out of Brianna Stewart, which
Yeah.
am I allowed to swear on here? I
Yeah.
didn't think
Yeah.
about
You can
that.
do whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Sorry. I always
No.
forget to
No. You're
ask.
good.
But that's what stood out to me. I was like, oh, okay, we got they everything they were doing was starting with Stewie or with Sloot trying to get in the paint and then going out of there into secondary stuff. And all that was, I mean, it was huge. I mean, obviously Brianna had her best scoring outing in the
Right.
W. She was incredible. So I'm not expecting that every game, of course,
Right.
but I think
Right.
the idea and principle of everything has to start with Stewie or getting the most out of her. I think I was really high on that and what that can look like moving forward.
Yeah. I thought they looked. Obviously, that's also a very different caliber of defenses
Yeah.
compared to who they played versus Indiana versus Washington, but everything just looked so much smoother. And I didn't expect, what we saw against Washington to be the norm by any means, but seeing them just run through Stewie, it I mean, if you have Brianna Stewart on your team, you run the ball through Stewie, and it seemed to work much better. But speaking of the Mystics, I think the player that I've been probably most excited watching so far this season has been Shakira Austin. I
Yeah.
think that I mean, there's no sophomore slump here at all. And so, what are your kind of thoughts on what have you seen from her so far, and then in general more so from the Mystics? Because I mean, I think they look pretty solid so far this season.
Yeah. I think Elena Deladon has looked awesome coming out the gates. I think what I'm most excited about for that team is that she's just going to be healthy this year for the first. I mean, she was healthy last year, but like
Right,
this is the first like fully here, fully
right,
healthy,
right, right.
fully ready to go. And that's just exciting from the standpoint of I'm happy for her because
Yeah.
that she's dealt with. I mean, she's been through the absolute ringer with
Mm-hmm.
everything. But with Shakira, I mean, Stephanie White talked about it post game, and I just clipped this and posted it on Twitter and have it on my podcast too. Like, I mean, Stephanie White came out and blatantly said that she thinks she's gonna be a Hall of Famer, like an all
Mm.
time great. Like, she's not just like playing around. I
That's a
was
pretty
like,
high claim.
exactly.
Like,
Like, I mean, Stephanie is somebody who was calling her games and recruiting her when she
yeah.
was at Vanderbilt, and like, I mean, she knows what she's talking about. I mean, her ability to just be a problem without even necessarily being part of the offense is what's so special to me. Like they are running more stuff for her this year off the first two games, but like her ability to play kind of just outside of the offense
Mm-hmm.
and find ways to fit in and play in pockets. Like, so what I mean by that, like if like if there's like an action being run on one side of the court and she's in the dunker spot, she's really good at moving and
Mm-hmm.
opening herself up for passes or finding ways to cut in or ways to duck in or ways to just get quick post touches. And that's it sounds small, but like that's such a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially for what part of what made her so good last year is they didn't really have to run stuff for her. She was
Right.
just really effective playing alongside, three all-star caliber players and being effective. And that's really hard to find. I think we've seen a ton of players who come in, having been stars and struggling to to find their way to be a role player in the league.
Mhm.
And I think seeing her come out and do that, and then her roles growing out from that now,
Right.
that's been incredibly exciting. Like her just blend of athleticism, aptitude on the court, and ability to read defenses is remarkable. And she's one hell of a defender herself.
Yeah, I think that's something that's so interesting to me is seeing players, especially in the WNBA, where talent is so centralized on like every team seems like they have so much talent, and players that do come from college where they are the star players learn to star in their role. And I think the players that are able to do that are the ones that we see end up kind of growing into star players again later on. And I think the talent was always there with Shakira, and I think the transition to star is happening faster than I expected, and it's going to be huge for the Mystics this entire season because she plays perfectly off of EDD, and the hustle. I felt like in that Connecticut game she was everywhere, like the the entire game. It felt like there wasn't a possession where in some way she was getting involved. So I was so impressed with her, and I think I'm going to continue to be impressed with her throughout this season. But speaking of that Sun game, obviously the Mystics didn't win that game. So right now, I know it's super early. I get it. But are between the Sun and the Mystics, when we're talking about taking down these super teams, is there one that's standing up a little bit higher in the power rankings for you between those two
Uh,
teams?
oh yeah, I mean the Aces for sure. I think the Aces. I mean the Aces were dominant in game
Mm-hmm.
one, and like as much as like you can point to and be like, well, they have all the continuity, but also like adding. I talked about this on my pod today too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, adding Candace isn't easy. Like
Right.
Candace is an incredible basketball player. That's not meant as a slight. It's more like she just brings a different play style than what
Mm-hmm.
the Aces had at all last year. They really didn't run stuff out of the high post. They weren't a team that really had a forward who was facilitating the ball like that. So like adding somebody who is going to rip and run a ton in transition, who is so good operating as a playmaker from the perimeter, like that's completely different. And then what that does for them defensively, I mean, I think what their defense looks like. Granted, we don't know a whole ton about Seattle and what they're going to be this
Right.
year,
Right.
so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But what their defense looked like all automatically in game one was extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited about what they're going to be this year. They're easily one for me, and
Yeah.
I think I've been pretty consistent on saying this since the offseason, but I don't like. I think it's just as likely that we get a team or two potentially that
Mm-hmm.
aren't the Aces or Mystic or not Mystics, Aces or Liberty in the
Right.
finals
Yeah.
than anything else. Like I think I'm really excited about the Sun and their new pieces. Obviously, they lost an MVP talent, but
Mm-hmm.
I think with what they brought back in and some of the things that they're flashing already, it's hard to not be excited about what that team can do now that they have just a really different look while still
Mm-hmm.
having a lot of the base that made them really strong. And then the Mystics, like they're very much here and ready to be a contender alongside the other two teams. So I am I am very much of the mindset that this is more open than I think consensus has been.
Right. No, I was saying the Sun were like my team in the offseason where it's like obviously it's not good to lose John Quill. You don't want to lose, a former MVP, and especially when she goes and forms a super team. But I don't think there was a team, an organization that might have been more ready with everything else that they had around on the team, whether it's Alyssa Thomas, Bonner, Bree Jones, or just coming off the bench and just moving into a larger role. Like the Sun were so prepared to come in and lose John Quill with what they already had in place, plus the offseason additions, Ty Harris, Rebecca Allen. I mean, it's been crazy. So for what they've been able to do, and I'm already excited to see I'm ready to see this next Sun Mystics game. I kind of hate that we're getting them both so early in the season
Yeah.
because like I kind of want to see how they develop throughout. But I'm excited for that one. So do you think that right now with the Aces as your number one, are the Sun or Mystics more likely to be the team that takes them out if they were to play in a playoff series right now? I know it's early.
To take out the Aces?
If they were to play in a playoff series, Aces versus Sun or Aces versus Mystics, which team do you think has a higher chance of taking the Aces out?
Wow, that's a good question. I think maybe I'm biased, but
Mm-hmm.
just because I've always like been really like I love watching the Sun play, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm just so in on like even when the trade happened, I was like, I get it, like I get what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
especially once they brought Tip in. I think if they're healthy, I think the Sun are the second best team to me. Like obviously it depends on how the Liberty go, but like based
Right.
on first weekend, sorry, my dog keeps
No, you're
dropping
good.
his ball for me to throw to him. But I think based on everything, like yeah, I think I would say the Sun. because they have like their offense is going to hit a new level this year, I think. Well, their defense, saying it got better is tough when they were already like the best defense in the
Right.
league last year, other than the Mystics. But I think they have even more versatility on that end. Will not really like you lose JJ for sure, but I think they have more ability to keep the ball in front with who their guards and wings are now. And um, yeah, I think I would go with the Sun.
I'm with you on it. I am. And something I thought was kind of interesting with Washington that we saw this is I feel like Washington they definitely have capable shooters, right? But there were several times where we saw Connecticut because of EDD and Shakira, they were instantly throwing help and kind of leaving whether it was Cloud or Atkins, obviously capable shooters that can knock it down, but not I guess kind of threatening, like prototypical kind of threatening shooters. And I'm interested in seeing how teams kind of. It's kind of hard to say because like you're right, the Connecticut, I mean the Sun are the best, if not, I mean one of the best, if not the best defenses in the league. So I'm ready to see how other teams kind of handled that. But the way that the Sun defended and they were very physical with EDD. We heard in the press conference how she felt about that.
Yeah.
But I was super impressed with them in that Mystics game, and I'm ready to see. Like I said, they play again. I think tonight, right?
Yeah, they play
Yeah,
in like just
like
about an hour, so
yeah.
we got a
So
good game on our hands.
we'll get to see again if that is something that changes or if that's something that kind of goes with the Mystics going forward. But switching up a little bit, we would be remiss not to talk about BG with the opening weekend. I mean,
Mm.
even I mean, the fact that she's even back and playing is incredible. But she's back and she's just still BG. Like she didn't miss a step. There was nothing. Obviously though, they still go 0-2. So for you, BG's out there doing her thing. A couple injuries with Shea Petty, Sophie coming back for the second game, but still lose that one. For you and the Mercury, what are you kind of seeing? What are the changes that need to be made? Because BG is cooking, BG's doing her thing, but the wins haven't followed yet.
Yeah, I think I feel better about the Mercury after watching them in game two. Like obviously game one, they had Sophie was out and
Mm-hmm.
they were dealing I like generally like they're just still working things back. But like you mentioned, I mean BG was phenomenal
Yeah.
in this. Um like seeing her not just offensively, like I think offensively I wasn't really too skeptical, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that sounds harsh, but I just mean like in general, like coming back from what she just went through, I wasn't sure what she would look like
Right.
defensively. And like I thought her mobility looked awesome. Her rim protection was of course there, but like they were comfortable playing her pretty close to the level of the screen, not just in a deep drop,
Yeah.
and doing a lot of like trying to mix in a little bit more variation with her. And I think the Mercury's defense is actually going to be pretty solid this year.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have questions about the offense, which I do think like that can continue to improve and get better. But I think when you have Bree Turner and Brittany together, like you just like we saw that for stretches in the Sky game
Mm-hmm.
with how switchy they got. Like I'm very excited about getting to watch this team in general move forward. I'm just happy BG's back. And she had that moment too, just the I'm back yelling,
Oh, it
like
was
I don't
so
know, seeing
tough.
that, yeah, it was really cool.
It was so I wanted the kind of the storybook win. I'm not gonna lie. I did kind of want the storybook win, but regardless, didn't happen. But the moment itself was amazing. Is it just a missing Skylar Diggins Smith problem? Like is like I mean it sounds like on offensively, it seems like kind of a gimme, like to just like simplify it to that, but it feels like a lot of the problems, if you have a Skylar Diggins Smith on your team playing and obviously she's still out, it seems like that's the fix, but we don't know if that's coming. Am I oversimplifying it, do you feel like, or is it kind of just that?
No, I don't think you're oversimplifying it. But I think on that other hand, like and this is not me reporting anything,
Yeah,
but I
right.
would be shocked if Skylar plays another game for
Yeah,
the Mercury.
me as well.
That's
I'm
my
with you on
impression
that.
from anything I've seen, heard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
would
you.
be pretty
I'm with you.
surprised. So we'll see if that happens. But like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's straight. If they had Skylar, I think that they're a top. I mean, they're in that. They will be in that top group,
Hmm.
competing for, a championship contention if they were there. I just think it's gonna. I mean, honestly, to be fair, like Diana looked really solid in that first half. I think she faded a little bit in the second.
Yeah.
Less about fading, more just like I think the Sky changed up things a little bit. But overall, yeah, I mean, not having who I would consider the best point guard in the league
Yeah.
is pretty tough.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to oversimplify it, but she is like the best point guard in the league. So I mean, when you don't have her, like it's gonna hurt your team like across the board. But I want to go back to that first Mercury game because Zaya Cook was cooking. She
Yeah.
she was cooking, and I think obviously we've been watching her at South Carolina, and we knew it was the potential was there, but for her to come out the gate, and obviously I don't expect this is gonna be something that she's gonna be able to do every game if she shot lights out and everything, but I feel like she brought a different energy to the Sparks offense in that game, a completely different burst. I think we even heard about it, post game from a bunch of different people, just how important she was to that win. For you, what did you kind of see from that, and what do you feel like her role? Is it still, just kind of spark plug off the bench you see going forward, or is it potentially moving to that starting lineup? Where can you see this season taking Zaya?
I think it's probably gonna be Spark Play off the bench for now.
Mm,
Like to be fair, and Kurt was honest about this in post game. I appreciate it from him because I think it's important to like
yeah.
keep, be real and honest with expectations. He was like, that was like because some I I don't even remember who asked it, so I don't mind saying it.
Mm,
But like, I hate when people ask, like, "Oh, is that what you envisioned from her, like, all the
right.
time?" And I'm like,
Right.
"What is he gonna say?" Like, I mean, come on, like, no, like, I don't. I mean, that was like about as good of a rookie debut as you could
Right.
have. She was
Right.
so good, even like defensively, she was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one leaner she hit through contact was
Mm-hmm.
nuts, and I mean, that's very much a Zaya shot, but
Oh
also
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's like to me, I think she's going to be a real rotation player this year, and that's
Mm-hmm.
huge. I will be really interested to see what happens once they're fully healthy, because
Yeah.
obviously Jazz didn't play. She's going to be working back still. I would expect her to be, I mean, probably starter as
Right.
things continue going. So like, I'm, I don't know. Like, I think she's going to continue to play real minutes this year, but I'd probably just say mostly on the rotation right now. But I love what I saw from her.
Yeah. I think her defense gets slept on so much. I think she kind of at South Carolina there were times where at least kind of generally she got boxed into just offensive player because you had Beal who was just defense and I kind of just oversimplified things at times. But her defense has gotten so much better over the course of her time at South Carolina and obviously now at the W. I think the potential. I don't know exactly where she's gonna fall in the league, whether it comes with her potential, but the possibilities of her being a top player in the league. Like I see the vision 100% being a really really solid two-way player in the league for a long time.
Mhm.
But obviously that debut was about as good as it's gonna get.
Dude, I mean, I think
But
the best part too is like, in watching that game just
mhm.
unfold, like early on, it's like, oh shit, the Mercury just gonna destroy the Sparks in
Yeah,
this
right.
game. And then the Sparks once they went to their bench lineup, and it was
Hmm.
kind of funny because like not that their starters were bad. I think it was just a tough shooting start, and
Hmm.
the Mercury came out hot. But they went to their bench lineup. They basically played like I think Hamby was like pretty much playing the five for them,
Yeah.
and like seeing how much they want to get out in transition, how they want to play. Like I think a you really see. I think like that group really felt like what Kurt wants to do with this group,
Hmm.
like really play with pace, really get out and run. And also play with a ton of shooting. Like part of like I think my favorite part of this game and what I asked about in post game
Hmm.
was just Lexi. Like Lexi and Carly Samuelson both um got used as like real movement shooters and
Hmm.
doing stuff that was dynamic in the offense, which we just didn't see last year.
At
Like
all.
that was not a thing.
Yeah.
Like we got lucky if we saw Lexi coming off a flare screen last
Right.
year. It was mostly just like, okay, lift up out of the slot and spot up. And especially for an offense that like really needs that
Hmm.
spacing
Hmm.
to be at their best, that was huge because that's stuff that they didn't again just didn't
Right.
do last year. But then the defense was really fun too because you see like okay, they're switching a bunch, they have a bunch of length, they're athletic. I mean, Carly Samuelson was a dog on the
Yeah.
defensive end in that
Yeah.
game. She was hustling for every board. Like I don't know, I'm excited about this Sparks team, especially
Yeah.
as they come together because I was like not that I think that they're a contender or anything, but I was just really intrigued by all the things they did. I've really liked everything I've heard from Kurt and
Hmm.
Karen Bryant in the post not post in the off season,
Right.
leading up to everything. So I'm excited for what this group can do.
Yeah, no, that second unit completely shifted the entire energy, and it was like a completely different style of play. Like you said, the movement that we think Kurt Miller was kind of pushing this whole organization towards. Like that second unit seemed like the blueprint for what in years to come, and potentially as the team gets more healthy and everything this season that we're gonna continue to see from them. But that second unit came in and completely just changed the game for them, and it caught me off guard. Like I didn't really know what to exactly expect like going into the season from the Sparks. Obviously, it's still early, but if that second unit can continue to come in and not have drop off or being able to play a different style, like it's gonna be exciting to watch. I'm just excited to see like what they turn into, especially as they get healthier across the board. But one team that I hope stays healthy this season is the Dallas Wings because they were fun. They were they were
Very
fun
fun.
in that Atlanta game. Obviously we saw Big T get hurt. I don't know if we've heard anything officially on her.
Yeah, as
Uh,
far as I'm aware, I don't think Dallas sent an update. I'm pretty sure she's
yeah,
gonna be okay.
it didn't
Um,
seem like something too crazy.
yeah,
Like from
I
from
think it
what
was.
the vibes that have been going
Yeah,
around. Um, but like I said, if they stay healthy, I mean, Satu was cooking. Like that's Satu. I think like that game is the encapsulation of like what we have been waiting to see from Satu, and I hope it's something. And I think really it just has been consistency of being able to play and stay on the court with her that hasn't been able to really let that version of Satu shine. But what did you see, from her and from the Wings in this game? Obviously, Enrique in that first half as well was just
yeah,
insane.
yeah. I think they have and this is not to sound haterish. Like I think they have some things to figure out offensively.
Yeah.
And I think that LT would say the same. I was in Atlanta's post game, so I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
to ask any
Mm-hmm.
questions for Dallas, but I think like part of what's tough about when you have somebody who is an incredible shot maker like that, um, like I think like they lean so much into like, hey, Satu can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it went into I mean not Satu, it went into like, hey, Origi can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it like I think in the second half, as Atlanta tied some things up
Yeah.
defensively, it's like, oh, okay, well, we need to find some other modes of offense. But like you're
Uh-huh.
saying, like Satu was so big just as like a connective player on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, that was one of the best games she's played in W as far as
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned. Um, like the shot was there consistently from her, and she was aggressive with it too. And then that's what opens up like the okay, well, I'm 6'4" and I can really handle the ball and attack. And you saw that like they did a bunch of stuff. Like I mean, they play out of horns a lot, so they'll
Yeah.
have her like attack from the elbow or the high post on drives, and there's aren't a lot of players who can defend that. And then you have her passing and letting her rip and run in transition, and you just get so much that's really good there that I love. Like she's so versatile and I love it so much. I'm very excited for her. Everyone I've talked to in Dallas behind the scenes and around the team
Mm-hmm.
is headed into the year was really excited about her. And yes, I'm so excited for this.
Now my next question was gonna be kind of what you mentioned is I wonder what Dallas, and obviously like I said, I keep saying it's still so early to try and there's no really conclusions to make yet about any team as we're still learning them, they're learning themselves, but finding where Dallas really is, because as you like Enrique was cooking in the first half, but then the second half kind of dropped off, and that's kind of been the Dallas experience at times. Is just finding that level of consistency as a team, whether it's on the offense or defensive side. I think the defense looked pretty solid. And I want to ask also about Atlanta's offense. Do you feel like that game, obviously shooting struggles, sometimes it was just good shots that you're missing or bad shot decisions. Where do you feel like that game kind of lied on? Was that Atlanta offensive problems? And if so, what was that? What was that problem? Or was that Dallas defense really kind of showing up and showing what LT had been preaching throughout the season or off season?
Yeah, I think I love Dallas's defense. I think like
Mm-hmm.
their just length and ability to muck things up was really fun. I think what I liked most from Marika in that game was like her defense was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that I mean, because that's been my biggest gripe with her overall. Like, not to be unfair, like she does
Yeah.
a lot of really good things, but I just struggle with players who aren't active defensively.
Yeah.
She hasn't been most of her career, so seeing her do that to start the season has been exciting. Um, I also think like on the Atlanta offense point, because I talked to Tanisha Wright about this
Mm-hmm.
after the game. Um, they liked the shots that they got. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it was just they wanted it to be more in the flow. It felt like they were taking open shots and shots that they're comfortable taking and hopefully making, but it's just some of it was like, okay, well, we could have made this extra pass for
Mm-hmm.
an easier shot or a shot that's closer to the rim. And I think for a team that is so much of what they do is like operating out of DHOs and playing outside in. So like if those shots don't fall early, it can really look ugly.
Yeah.
And I think like that's kind of how that game played out, honestly. Like once they started to get into the paint more and open up easier looks, they closed the gap and the shots came back around for them. I wasn't too worried about it. Like I think to me that was more just a tough start than them being bad. I think I was a little bit more surprised about the defense. I think the defense was kind of not. I mean, it was rough in the
Yeah,
first half.
yeah.
But they made some adjustments. Things were better. Um, I definitely just have more questions in general, but it's one game, so I don't have
Right,
like too much.
right. That's kind of where we're at. It's like, we're getting a taste, but we can't make the full like meals of all these teams yet. We're just kind of we got the first ingredients in. But speaking of food, Mark, I'm not gonna take too much of your time, but I couldn't let you leave. Um, we got a bone to pick because I'm getting sick and tired of your Italian food take.
Oh,
So,
buddy,
so
yeah.
explain it to me. Explain it to me. Explain the Italian food take. What is your beef with Italian food?
Yeah, it's not even necessarily beef. I just like I think it's a little bit overhyped, to be honest. That's just where I can feel you cringing across the board.
Mm.
It's like it's fine. I just like I don't know. I'm not like not in love with it. I don't like pasta. I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll do it.
I don't really like I don't really like any kind of pasta. So it makes it really difficult to be a big fan
Yeah, no,
of
I mean that adds up. I will like that equation adds up.
yeah. I will say, like, I do like a lot of the chicken dishes.
Hmm.
I like Italian sausage. There are good things going on in Italian food, but just not to the level that people make it out to be,
Have you ever
which
been
I'm
to
sure you'll
like
disagree with, but
Have you
that's
ever been
fine.
to like an Italian Sunday dinner?
I think once or twice. I
You've
like I
been
don't
to a
know.
Sunday dinner and you still don't like pasta?
No, I don't like pasta. It's
Oh
just
my
I don't like the texture. Textures of blah.
Mark. I think we're just gonna have to agree on to disagree on this one. I don't think there's I you are the first person I've ever met that just outright dislikes pasta. Like if you
Yeah.
met other people
It's
that are
mostly just like any kind of noodle though. It's not even just pasta. Like I don't really like rice noodles. I don't like I love Asian food, but
uh-huh.
I don't like pho. I don't really like anything that has noodles. I'm just not a
That's
big fan of.
crazy.
Yeah.
Man. And the funny thing is, I can't even eat most Italian food because it's all got gluten in it and I'm allergic. So I'm over here going to
Oh
bat
shit.
for food. I can't even really eat. And that's how deeply root that's the just the heritage talking, that's the capital L in the last name.
Yeah. So
Everything
you're going to
about
bat. Oh well, okay. So you're going to bat for something that can't even go back to bat for you. That's interesting.
listen, they got gluten-free versions. The noodles aren't as good,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
you
That's
know, it
something.
it is what it is. But Mark, thank you for taking the time. I'm very much looking forward to all your content going throughout the rest of the season, whether it's the spaces, the breakdowns. I try and consume everything that you put out because when I consume Mark Schindler content, I end up smarter. And that's that is what I always end up. I'm like,
Appreciate that,
oh,
man.
I feel like every time I whether it's an article or a video, I always am like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I appreciate what you bring to the W landscape and the content that you do, man. And thank you again for taking the time.
No, I appreciate you having me, man.
All right.